Hello and welcome to lecture 40. This is a continuation from lecture 38, which was about the Messiah, and we'll take this next stage further. This will probably confuse you even more, so be warned. A few weeks ago I gave a lecture on the latent heat of water, and I showed how ice becomes water. And I used a system called the third dimensional value, which I was showing that each time you go up these values you get to higher frequencies, and so when ice becomes more vibrant it turns into water through the vibrations. So I'm going to use that system in this lecture, and I'll explain it when I do so. So we're going to look at a little extract from the book of Ezekiel. I have given a lecture on this book before. It's called The One Stick, and the beginning of this, well, it starts from verse 15. It says, "The word of the Lord came to me, saying, And you, son of man, take you one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and all the house of Israel, his companions, and join them for yourself, one to another, into one stick, that they may become one in your hand." Symbolism being that there were divide between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom after King Solomon passed away. So his son Rehoboam became the king of the southern kingdom, and Jeroboam rebelled, and the northerners rebelled against Rehoboam, and Jeroboam set up a kingship in the northern kingdom, and that kingship became called Ephraim, or Israel. It became Ephraim because Ephraim was the biggest tribe, as much as down south in the southern kingdom, Judea was the name given because Judah was the biggest tribe there. It also contained the tribe of Benjamin, and there were Levites there. The Levites were spread out all over Israel in 42 cities. They didn't own land as such. So there were in both kingdoms Levites, but there were 10 tribes in the northern kingdom, and when Sennacherib came to destroy the northern kingdom, he scattered them around. So they became what was called, or is still called, the 10 lost tribes of Israel, and the other three are the southerners, and the Jewish people today are descendants from those. And in the end, these two kingdoms will come back together again. The lost tribes will return, and they will become one again. So Ezekiel continues in the next part. And when the children of your people shall speak to you, saying, Will you not tell us what you mean by these? Say to them, Thus says the Lord God, Behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel, his companions, and I will put them to him together with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand, and the sticks thereon you have written shall be in your hand before their eyes, and you shall say to them, Thus says the Lord your God, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the nations whither they have gone, and I will gather them on every side, and bring them to their land, and I will make them into one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall no more be two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more. And then it continues, neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with their transgressions, but I will save them out of their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God. And the servant David shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my ordinances, and observe my statutes, and do them. Now this is a prophecy about the reunification of the Jewish people as one people on the land of Israel, with one king, keeping God's commandments. This is very different to what Christianity talks about, that the commandments were annulled provided you've accepted Jesus on the cross as your saviour. you no longer have to keep these ordinances, which I've never really understood, because Christians do keep many of the ordinances that are given in the Bible. They don't steal, they don't commit adultery, etc. So they're keeping them. The only ones that don't have been sort of annulled are the commandments that really differentiate Jewish people from the rest of the world, like the laws of kosher food and the laws of circumcision and things like that. And it continues in Ezekiel, and they shall dwell in the land that I have given to Jacob my servant, when your fathers dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, they and their children, and their children's children forever, and David my servant shall be prince forever. So it's interesting, the name of the Messiah given here is David. Okay, and it's what do we do with that? It's a strange concept, because Jesus was not called David, and Menachem Mendel is not called David, who I mentioned in the chapter in lecture 38 as being the Messiah, and Muhammad, he's not called David. So who is this David? When David was king of Israel, so he is promised by God that his kingdom would never cease from being with him, and so it did come away, but it means that in the end the kingdom will come back and he will always have the kingship. So it means a personification of David within the Messiah. It doesn't mean that the Messiah has to be called David, but the spark within David will be, that soul level will be within would be in the Messiah. And there is another verse in Ezekiel, I don't have it here actually, I thought I did, where it says that we should seek out David my servant. So to seek out David, and to find, just want to see it now, to find something more deeper in him. That's what I'm going to do now. And you'll find this in this book. This is a book like a commentary, gematria commentary on this chapter in Ezekiel. You can imagine I'm planning to write a gematria commentary on the Bible, the whole Bible. Take me many years, but we live with great hope. So we'll look at the word David. In Hebrew it's David. Okay, it's spelled Daled, Vov, Daled. And we're going to put the placement values down, 4, 6, 4. Fourth letter, sixth letter, fourth letter. And then we're going to put down the large value. Let's find another pen. Large value for, the word for is 60. This is the LV, PV. 6 is 52, and the word for is 60. Okay, I add these up as I go along. That's 100 and that's a 14. This is 172. And then we're going to extend this to what I called in the book about water, to the third dimensional value. This will be the first dimensional, this will be the second, this will be the third. And the word 60 is 97, 52 is 124, and 60 is 97. And if I add that together, I get 318. Then I get to the fourth dimensional values, and the word 97 is 152. The word 124 is 294, and 97 is 152. And if I add those together, I get 598. And if I go to the fifth dimensional value, I get 152 is 251, and I get 194 is 298, and I get this 251. If I add that together, I'll get 800. Can't go any further than that actually, because the word 251, if I write out 251 and then work out the placement value of those words, I'll get 251. It's what I call a singularity. You can't go anywhere with it. There's another number, it's 290. I think it's 291. No, it's 259. 259 is the only other of these two, 251 and 259. 259 equals 259, and they're the only two numbers that reproduce their numbers. If you write out A to Z all the way down, and you to do this sort of thing and see how far you get, you'll find that you go into cycles of numbers. They go repeat themselves, and you'll also find that some come to a singularity and you can't go any further with them. And it's quite an interesting pattern there, which I've not discussed in. It's in my book, The End of Evil, and more research I like to do on that, because it's very interesting how these numbers continue to evolve, and which numbers suddenly, which letters become stationary, they can't go any further, and which letters seem to go in these cycles. So let's see what these numbers mean. If I add, let's use a different colour, 14 and 130, 318, I'll get 322. And if I add 172 and 598, I'll get 770. Well, what's the connection between, this is the number we had last time, 770 is connected to Menachem, is connected to, that's the place where he lived, the headquarters of Lubavitch. This is where Menahem Mendel Schneerson was based, and this is what he equals to. Menachem Mendel, if I can find some room, wipe that off. So Menachem Mendel, Menachem is 138, and Mendel, right at the top here, Mendel, and I'll explain what Mendel means sometime, is 194, and I'll get 332. Okay, so that is the normal value of Menachem Mendel. Menachem Mendel, that's 40, 70, 50, 4 and 30. Right? So using the normal values, Menachem Mendel equals 332, which is this value here, and 770. So what is this 800? If I add all these numbers together, I will get 1902. And that's the year he was born. So an interesting connection between Menachem Mendel hidden inside the name of David. So just to there's more to be said about David, about this name, but we're going to leave that. He's called a Nasi, and I show also how the name Nasi, which means a prince, that's how he's called in Ezekiel, a Nasi, and that is also connected to 770. But we'll leave that. So Menahem Mendel Schneerson, his Hebrew name, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, Shin Nun Yud, that's Shnei, which means two, or, which means light, Son is like sun. Two lights of the sun in the sky, or the sun, the child of two lights. We could talk about that some other time. But if we work out these numbers, we had 138, 194, and this is 683. Okay? They are the normal values. Now, I don't use it often, but this, what we're going to do, we're going to look at the small values. It's using numerology. You take these numbers and you add them up. 1 plus 3 plus 8 is 4 plus 8 is 12. Again here, 1 plus 9 plus 4 is 14. And 6 plus 8 plus 3 is 17. And I do it again. This is called Mispar Katan, the small values. But I want the Mispar Katan Hamuchlat, that means the absolute small values. I have to reduce it to one single figure. So I have to add 1 plus 2, which gives me 3. And 1 plus 4 gives me 5. And 1 plus 7 gives me 8. And 358 is the normal value of Mashiach, which is the one people mainly know. Okay, that's the same gematria as Nachash, as in the serpent in the Garden of Eden. And I've mentioned before that the serpent, that the Zohar talks about the Mashiach as being the holy serpent, the Nachash Hakadosh, the holy serpent. Okay, so we've seen some connection between this name of Menachem Mendel and Messiah, and I'll give you one or two more. For example, okay, the Messiah in placement values is 107. We had this last time, and if I write Menachem Schneerson, the surname Schneerson. If I work out the placement value is 107. If I'll introduce you to another type of gematria. Well, we have seen it before. It's the sum of squares, but I've probably not used it in Hebrew. That's where I copied it from. I copied it from a particular Kabbalist who lives in Israel, and he used this system of sum of squares. So if I take in English Menachem, that's Menachem, and I work out the sum of squares. So this is the 13th letter, and that's the 5th letter. So I square each one and I add up. So 13 squared is 169, 5 squared is 25, and I add it all up, and I will get 658. And I do the same thing for Mendel, and I will get 575. These are sum of square SOS. Okay, ask for help. It's a sum of squares. So I've added that together. I get 1, 2, 3, 3. That's the sum of squares. If I take a Hebrew now, I'm going to change my pen. I'm going to use Melech Mashiach, King Messiah. And I'm going to do the same, the sum of squares. This is the 13th letter, this is the 12th letter, the 11th letter. Square them, and I will get 1233 as the sum of squares. The sum of squares of this, we had in a previous lecture where I've showed you an idea of reflection, is 434. Okay, so that is the sum of square of Melech, which means king, and that happens to be the large value of Mendel. Happens to be the normal value of Muhammad D. So he has a normal value of 434. We'll come back to this number again soon. That's an NV number. So there's a link between these. So we've got 434. We've got Menachem Mendel connected with Melech Mashiach, the King Messiah. So, are there any more ways of doing this? Oh, there are quite a lot, actually. The word Messiah in Hebrew the word Messiah in English has a placement value of 74. We had that last week as well. So, here is an interesting thing about the number 74. So Messiah equals 74. Here's number 7. Here's the number 4. And we're going to work out the large value of 7, which is 439. And we're going to work out the large value of the word 4, which is 331. That's the LV. And if I add those together, I get 770. So I get this intrinsic connection between Messiah and 770. We had this to be in lecture 38. I wrote the word Christ as Kufresh Yud Samech Taf equals 770. So these are interrelated connections showing what I will call possible. I wouldn't call it a proof. I don't know if you can prove the Messiah through gematria, but it certainly adds to existing ideas of Messiah. So let's just now I'll just show you another interesting thing. So we've had about I showed you the Muhammad also equal 434. Let's show how Jesus is linked to the name Mendel. So Mendel has a normal inner value, that's the NIV value, of 394. Remember, normal value is M is 40, the word 40 is 84, E is 5, 5 is 42, and I go on N is 50, and 50 is 66, I will get 394 for Mendel. It's an extension of the normal value. The large value is an extension of the placement values. The normal inner value is an extension for the large values. So I will get 394, which, if I put Jesus down and I find the large value of Jesus, I will get 394. Okay, am I saying that Menachem Mendel is an incarnation or reincarnation of Muhammad and Jesus? I don't know. I haven't got the foggiest idea. Possible. Gematria shows possible connections. They might be either the same thing or the opposite. President equals 110, or Osama bin Laden equals 110. So they were opposites. You have Judah the Maccabee, 110. He was against Antiochus, and Antiochus is 110. So sometimes you get the same values, but they represent opposites. Sometimes you get the same values, and they represent the same sort of thing, the same energy. You cannot have opposites that do not. You cannot have a confrontation that is complete if they don't equal. So that is one way of looking at it, that these are really opposites, or we could say that they are the same thing. Maybe there is this idea of carnation, the cambium. But that will have to go into a theological discussion of who is Jesus, who is Muhammad, what did they do, were they representative of the messianic persona? So that's another discussion. But I'll show you just one other thing. 394. If I use what was called time transformation, which I've had in the lecture 38, where I showed that the 070 at the bottom of the number caduceus is equivalent to 110, because 70 minutes in an hour you get you carry over the 60 minutes, which is 1 hour, left with 10 there, so you get 110. Right? So there is a connection between 70 and 110, which is the Christ. Okay? Which is Hamelech Hamoshiach is also 110, using the alternative placement values. So this number, using time formation, the 90 minutes will become 60, becomes 1 hour, left with 30, so that becomes 434. And so there is this connection between Jesus and Mendel in two ways, and of course Muhammad as well. Very, very strange, and there's a lot more to go into all this. It is very deep, and it seems to puzzle, put everything into sort of a big pot to be sorted out. So we've shown some connections here. I'm going to do some more in another lecture. Oh, just one more while it's here, because I'll probably miss it out next time. I'll just give you this one more, and I'll call it a day. So this is Menachem Mendel's name, Menachem Mendel, Ben, son of Hannah, his mother. So if I work out, we don't do two N's in there, Hannah. If I work out the placement value of that, I get 171. That's the PV. If I work out the placement value for the true Messiah, true Messiah is also 171. Okay, so I've given you a few there, something for you to think about. More to come. So I hope you enjoyed that. It's certainly probably different to what you would have expected, and this is going to perhaps we'll have to look into the Bible a little bit more. I'll show you next lecture about the prophecy in Isaiah chapter 11 about the shoot of Jesse, and how that's connected with the name of the Messiah as well. Okay, thank you for listening. Please give me a like and subscribe, and share my videos with whom you like. And if you're interested in these two booklets, you can go onto my website, which is worlddiscoveries.com, and you can purchase these. I'm going to give this free to anybody that buys the Mystery of Water. So if you go on there and you buy the Mystery of Water, I will include this as a freebie. Okay? Alright, have a good night.